What happens when you open your relationship to freedom, only to discover it leads to something darker. The idea of an open relationship can seem liberating, a way to revive a marriage that feels stagnant, allowing for freedom without breaking the bond. But what if that decision shatters everything you thought you knew? For Lena and Michael, their marriage appeared to be the perfect picture of happiness. They shared laughter, mutual respect, and a deep love. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form. Their once perfect life was about to unravel in ways they could never have imagined. What started as an attempt to reignite their connection would soon spiral into betrayal, heartbreak, and a confrontation so shocking it would leave them questioning everything. This is a story about how love, once broken, can never return to what it once was. Lena and Michael had always seemed inseparable. They met in college, and their connection was instant, their chemistry undeniable. Over the years, their love only deepened, strengthened by shared experiences and the comfort of knowing each other inside and out. Their friends admired their relationship, often citing it as the model of true partnership. Yet, as time went on, subtle changes began to emerge. Michael, always the steady and dependable one, had grown withdrawn, his passion fading under the weight of routine. Lena, on the other hand, felt a growing sense of restlessness. The love was still there, but something was missing. She longed for excitement, for something to break the monotony of their daily lives. It wasn't that Lena didn't love Michael anymore, far from it, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to life than what they had built together. Her emotions conflicted. She felt secure, but at the same time, suffocated by the predictability of their marriage. Deep down, she knew things weren't the same. But could a change truly bring them closer, or would it tear them apart? One quiet evening, over dinner, Lena broached the subject. "What do you think about an open relationship?" she asked. The words hung in the air like a weight as Michael paused, his fork halfway to his mouth. He had never expected this question, not from her, not from anyone. His mind raced, uncertainty flooding him. The idea felt so foreign. Yet there was something in Lena's eyes, something desperate, something yearning. "I just think it could bring us closer," Lena said, her voice soft but steady. "We could have freedom but still be together. Maybe it would help us rediscover ourselves." Michael's stomach churned at the thought of Lena with someone else, and an unease gripped him. Yet he saw the longing in her eyes, and he didn't want to lose her. But was he ready for what she was suggesting? His heart raced as he tried to find the right words. But the quiet desperation in her voice was impossible to ignore. "Are you sure this is what you want?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lena nodded. "I think we need it." Despite every warning bell going off in his mind, Michael reluctantly agreed. The decision was made, and it would change everything. As the weeks passed, Lena embraced the freedom of the open relationship with a sense of liberation. She began going out more often, meeting new people, and rediscovering parts of herself that had been dormant for years. The excitement in her eyes was undeniable as she shared stories of new experiences with Michael, often coming home late, brimming with energy. But for Michael, things weren't as easy. Each time Lena went out, he felt a gnawing unease in his chest, a jealousy he couldn't shake. He forced himself to suppress it, telling himself that this was what they had agreed to. But it was hard to ignore how distant Lena had become, how independent she seemed. She was no longer the woman who leaned on him for everything. Now, she was strong, self-sufficient. The small incidents that once seemed insignificant began to accumulate, creating a sense of discomfort. A missed call, an unexplained late night. But Michael told himself these were just normal occurrences. This was the arrangement they had agreed upon. Still, deep inside, insecurity took root. Was Lena still the woman he had married? What if she no longer needed him at all? One evening, Michael returned home early from work, hoping to surprise Lena with dinner. But when he opened the door to their home, his stomach sank. There, in the living room, were Lena and another man, laughing, kissing. Time seemed to freeze. His breath caught in his chest. It took a moment for his brain to fully process the scene in front of him. Lena, the woman he had loved and trusted for years, was with someone else. In their home, in their space. The sense of betrayal hit him like a physical blow, leaving him reeling. His world seemed to crumble in that instant, and shock blurred his thoughts. He stood there, unable to move, unable to speak. Anger surged in his chest, burning hot and fast. "How could you do this?" he finally managed, his voice barely audible. Lena's eyes went wide, panic flashing across her face. "Michael, But before she could explain, Michael turned and stormed out. His heart felt shattered, his mind spinning with pain and confusion. The last image he had of her was her tear-streaked face. But it didn't matter. She had already made her decision. The trust they had shared was gone, and he could no longer pretend. The next day, Michael confronted Lena. The conversation was a chaotic mess of raw emotions, anger, betrayal, and confusion. He couldn't understand how things had gone so terribly wrong. "You said you wanted freedom," Michael hissed, his voice trembling with rage. "But this is more than I can handle." Lena, guilt and defensiveness in her eyes, tried to calm him. "Michael, you agreed to this. You wanted the open relationship, too." Michael's fury flared. "I never agreed to this," he shot back. "You promised we were in this together. I thought I could trust you." Lena shifted uncomfortably, trying to explain. "It's not like that. I never meant to hurt you. It's just that things changed." But Michael couldn't listen anymore. The lies and excuses were clear to him now. The woman he thought he knew, the woman he had married, had vanished. In her place was someone he barely recognized. "Don't try to spin this," he said, his voice cold as ice. "I know what I saw." He stood before her one last time. "You made your choice. I'm done pretending this is something I can accept." Without another word, he turned and walked out, each step away from her feeling like a dagger to his heart. The woman he thought he would grow old with was no longer the same. His mind churned with the overwhelming sense of betrayal. The days that followed were clouded by hurt, confusion, and a growing need for revenge. Michael couldn't just walk away. He needed to make her feel the depth of the pain she had caused him. He started tracking her movements. Social media, asking friends for information. He even followed her on some of her outings. The more he uncovered, the more disgusted he became. Lena had been hiding multiple affairs, all under the guise of seeking freedom. The fury inside him began to simmer, but it also fueled a plan. Michael didn't want to simply leave her. He wanted her to understand the full weight of her betrayal. He began crafting a scheme to confront her, not in private, but publicly, exposing her to everyone they knew. It wasn't just about hurting her. It was about making sure she felt the consequences of her actions, that he wanted her to truly grasp the weight of her choices. Michael needed Lena to experience the pain, the betrayal, and the crushing embarrassment he had endured. The night of the party arrived, and Michael knew this was the moment he had been waiting for. It was an elegant affair, one of Lena's frequent social gatherings where she'd flaunt her new life, one without him. It was a perfect opportunity for him to expose everything. As he entered the venue, Michael took a steadying breath, trying to maintain his composure. His eyes swept across the room until they landed on Lena, laughing and holding hands with her new lover. The sight ignited a firestorm within him, but he kept his calm. He wouldn't let her see the fury brewing inside him. Not yet. Lena was glowing, soaking in the attention and admiration from everyone around her, completely unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. The anger in Michael's chest burned, but so did the sadness. He had once loved this woman, trusted her, and now she was acting as if nothing had changed, as if he meant nothing. But this was his moment. Every detail of his plan had been carefully thought out, and now it was time to carry it out. His heart pounded, but he was resolute. He would expose her. He would make her feel the humiliation he had felt when he discovered her with someone else. Michael approached Lena, who was standing near the bar, laughing with a group of friends. He walked toward her calmly, his face betraying no emotion, though inside he was a whirlwind of rage. When Lena saw him, her smile faltered, just for a split second, before she quickly recovered. "Michael, I didn't expect you here," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice wavered slightly, revealing her unease. He leaned in slightly, his voice cold and sharp. "I've been watching you, Lena. I know everything." Lena froze, confusion flickering in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" Without responding, Michael pulled out his phone and started playing the videos, showing her the messages he had gathered, each piece of evidence more damning than the last. The room around them went quiet as people gathered, their eyes glued to the screen. The videos, the texts, all the proof of her affairs. It was all there for everyone to see. The crowd's expressions shifted from curiosity to shock, and gasps filled the air as Lena's facade began to crack. The woman who had been the life of the party just moments before was now exposed, her secrets laid bare for all to witness. Lena stood frozen, unable to speak, as the reality of what was happening sank in. Michael had made his point. He had done exactly what he set out to do. He had publicly humiliated her, forcing her to face the consequences of her actions. The balance of power had shifted. For the first time in a long while, Michael felt a sense of control. The room was filled with murmurs as people processed what had just happened. Whispers and glances filled the room as Michael stood, watching Lena's emotional collapse unfold before him. She desperately begged for his forgiveness, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, Michael, I never meant for it to end up like this," she sobbed, her voice cracking with guilt and desperation. But Michael remained unmoved. The years of pain, the betrayal that had torn apart everything they had built together, had hardened him. He shook his head, his voice cold and firm. "No more lies, Lena." Without a second thought, he turned and walked away, leaving her behind. For the first time, it felt as though a weight had been lifted from his chest. But as he made his way through the crowd, he couldn't help but notice the judgmental stares and sympathetic looks from the others. The satisfaction of exposing her had a bittersweet edge. Yes, he had made her face the truth, but that hollow emptiness in his heart remained untouched. Revenge had come at a steep cost. It had robbed him of his peace, leaving behind only an aching void. The days turned into weeks, and Michael began to heal. He immersed himself in his work and focused on his personal growth. It wasn't always easy. Memories of Lena occasionally surfaced, but he fought through it. He spent time with friends who lifted him up, rediscovered hobbies he had abandoned, and found solace in his own company. Then, one evening, Lena reached out with a brief, regret-filled message. "I'm sorry for everything. I should never have hurt you like that. I hope you find happiness." By this point, Michael was no longer the man who had once been consumed by love for her. He had grown stronger, more self-assured. Her words had little effect now. It was too late for apologies. As Michael reflected on everything he had been through, he understood something crucial. The real lesson was learning his own worth. He had discovered that dignity, self-respect, and closure were far more valuable than any fleeting satisfaction of revenge. The path he had walked was filled with pain, heartbreak, and confusion. But through it all, he had emerged wiser and more resilient. The betrayal had forced him to confront his vulnerabilities and come to terms with the true cost of freedom. In the end, Michael realized something deep and lasting. True freedom wasn't about seeking vengeance or escaping the past. It was about taking charge of his own life, making his own choices, and learning to live without needing validation from anyone else. As the story reached its conclusion, Michael's final reflection echoed in his mind. Sometimes, the most difficult lessons are learned through the deepest betrayals. And through the darkness, he had found his way into the light. The end of one chapter was merely the beginning of another.